Good afternoon and welcome to Bradenton Kiwanis. We are so happy you're here today. At this time, would you join me in singing My Country 'Tis of Thee, the pledge and the invocation today given by Ed Cleveland.
Let's pray together. Father, we thank you for the opportunity we have to come together again as the Bradenton Kiwanis Club helps support the community that we serve and live in. We pray, Father, that you will bless each of us here today and those that can't be with us today. Bless the speaker today. May his message encourage us to do more as they are doing more at the college. Now pray, Father, we pray that you will bless the food to our good and us to your service. In Christ's name we'll ask it. Amen.
Amen. All right, you may be seated, and we will be back with you in about 15 minutes.
What?
I don't believe it. Here she comes now.
Life sucks it. Life sucks it. Life sucks, life sucks, life sucks, sucks it.
Why, hello, children.
Who's the one who makes the best macaroni? Who's the one who keeps it full of baloney?
that number. We really appreciate it. I hope everybody was surprised. Let's give them another hand as they leave the theater. You're welcome. Thank you. All right. Well, welcome back. That ought to get the juices flowing for this afternoon. We're waiting on Mac to come up, and he's going to introduce our guests for today.
Oh, well, you might. I do want to welcome everybody to today. That was a very special thing. I really enjoyed that. It was great. We do have a few people here visiting with us. First, let me introduce Tanner Foltz, Michael's son.
Hey, Tanner.
When either Lemoyne or Michael can't be here, Tanner will be taking our pictures, sort of like Lily used to do. So Tanner is the new Lily. Don't get him confused. Also like to recognize Andy Girth, who's here visiting with us today. And representing Manatee Chamber of Commerce today is Kimberly. And is that Hurley? Henley. Sorry about that. And from AMI Kids, we have Marvin Farrell. So thank you all for coming and have a great day.
Thank you, Mac. At this time, we'd like to have our new member, Mike Bear, come up and introduce himself.
Might have to read a little bit. When you ask a salesperson to talk about himself, you know, this could go on forever. I've got a governor. I've got a governor on this thing, so that's why I'm reading. So good afternoon. I'm Mike Bear. My story started with a bunch of pineapples. My dad ran the pineapple plantation for Del Monte out in Kaunakakai near Kuala Molokai, Hawaii. Really. And lived there pretty much until the first grade when we moved to Siesta Key. My dad managed the agricultural research farm just up the road on the Braden River for a long time with DuPont. I grew up here, had a magical childhood on the beach, joined the Boy Scouts, spent weeks at summer camp up here at Camp Flying Eagle, right, with the Scouts, and half the summer out in California where my grandfather was the chief scout executive. One of the best, most memorable experiences was teaching blind kids how to sail in Newport Beach at the sea base out there in Newport Beach, California. I learned a lot that summer. After that, I achieved Eagle Scout. Went to Riverview High School. I was vice president of our Key Club, did lots of projects, including helping Mote Marine Laboratory move from Midnight Pass to their current facility. Now current, they're going to move again. And then on to the University of Florida, go Gators. Right out of college, I joined the owners of Dex Imaging and never left. It's been 35 years. My two kids, Madison and Tanner, are both out in San Diego, and they're doing well. She was out there with the City Ballet of San Diego, and Tanner kind of followed her out that way. You know, magic happens when you give back. I'm fortunate to work for a company that gives back 1/3 of the profits to the local community, and very proud to be recently recognized by the Manatee Community Foundation, Susie, thank you very much, with the Community Spirit Award. I am proud to be one of your newest members, along with a few of us from Leadership Manatee this year, and look forward to making an impact with our local youth. My beautiful wife, Dawn, thinks the pineapple means stand tall, wear a crown, and be sweet on the inside. I know the meaning is hospitality, generosity, and friendship. And I appreciate all of you making me feel right at home. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. We appreciate you joining our club. Right now, I'm going to give the governance report for the upcoming elections. The slate of officers for this year will be President Mike McCoy, President-elect Christy Cardillo, Vice President Gilbert Smith Jr., Treasurer Dave Grantham, Secretary Mac Aldridge. We have nominations for 4 positions, but 6 nominees for the Board of Directors. Dan Cacciati, Sean Flynn, Rich Fred, Bill Murphy, Don Stanhope, and J.B. Tucker. There will be a vote election on July the 9th. July the 9th. So the notice is hereby given that we will have the club elections on July the 9th. Don't forget, tomorrow is our monthly board meeting at Pier 22 starting at 12:15. Remember, those new members, you need to attend one board meeting. So let us know if you want to attend tomorrow. At this time, I'd like to call up Charles Clapsaddle to give us a little message.
Brett asked me to come up and say a few words, but I just want to take this opportunity to thank the Bradenton Kiwanis Club and the Bradenton Foundation for the generous gift that we use to buy new equipment for our facility. I can't begin to tell you what a difference that has made. It's brought us into the digital age. We have brand new Panasonic cameras that we use, brand new computer systems. It allows us to do more than we did before, and we did quite a bit before. And then as I look around the room, I just want to thank the Bradenton Kiwanis Club for not only for their generosity, but for their spirit as well. We've had the opportunity for many years now to work with the Kiwanis Foundation and the city club, and it's been one of the great pleasures that we've had. Christmas in August, the many other facilities that you do, it's just a wonderful opportunity for us. And I don't get here as often as I would like to do, for different circumstances. But we always love coming here. Richard's always here taping one thing or another. You guys got to slow down a little bit too. It's like every week there's a Kiwanis thing. But it's a wonderful opportunity, and I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for giving us that responsibility to do more with your kind gift. And we greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles. It was a pleasure, and I know that the Charitable Foundation or Charitable Committee is proud of everything that you do at METV. At this time, I'd like to call up Dr. Keller Probstfield from the SCF, State College of Florida, the president, to introduce our speaker.
Before I get to introducing our speaker, I'd like to draw your attention to the flyer that's on your table. This is a presentation that the college is putting on next Friday, and I have to say I've heard Dr. Holdenack speak several times. He's a good friend of mine. And to hear him talk about what it's like to have cash in your pocket and go hungry for days because you've lost everything and there's no stores, there's no restaurants, there's nothing left. So you go without food for 4 to 5 days until people can get to you, to live a mile away from your son and not know whether he's alive or dead because there's simply no way to get to him. The roads are completely destroyed and the debris is immense. Until you've heard that, you haven't started to think differently about what it really means to be ready. So I encourage anybody who is interested, please come join us. Now, Dr. Rich Barnhouse has been the Vice President of Student Services and Enrollment Management at the State College of Florida since July 2015. In his role, he leads a large division comprised of multiple departments, operations, and programs. During his time with SCF, he has increased new student enrollment, improved retention, transformed the registration, records, and financial aid operations, and established a new philosophy of student service based on the premise that from every interaction with a student, something good should happen. Prior to joining State College of Florida, Dr. Barnhouse served for 18 years, providing leadership and oversight in progressively responsible positions in student affairs at Rice University, the University of South Carolina, the University of Wisconsin-Sheboygan, and most recently, prior to joining State College of Florida, the University of Wisconsin Colleges in Madison. Dr. Barnhouse received his PhD in Education and Leadership from Cardinal Stritch University in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, his Master of Arts in Sports Administration from Central Michigan University, and a bachelor's degree in Physical Education, which I understand he changed his major 3 times, from Brock University in Ontario, Canada. Dr. Barnhouse brings a compelling vision and enthusiasm for student success to his role at SCF that makes him a joy to work with and a valued member of our SCF leadership team. Please join me in offering a warm Kiwanis welcome to Dr. Richard Barnhouse.
Well, good afternoon. How's everybody doing? Good. It really is my pleasure to be here. You're going to see me sort of sway back and forth. I like to move around the room, so it's going to be a little bit difficult for me to stay behind the podium. So if I get too far to the left or right, just sort of wave your hand so I don't fall off the stage, if you don't mind. Thank you, Dr. Probstfield, for that wonderful introduction. I was saying to her as I was walking on stage, I should have my boss write my bio for me, because that was excellent. Thank you very, very much. It really is a pleasure to be here, and I appreciate the invitation very much. Before we even get into our conversation here today, I just want to say that I am excited. I'm excited about this generation in Gen Z. There are things about this generation, I think, that are pieces of every generation before them, and somehow they seem to have picked the best stuff from all the previous generations, and we'll talk about that a little bit today. This is a topic that could be a 3-4 hour seminar, so I'll have you all out of here by Christmas. I hope everybody's okay with that. So this is a very brief version of this, but there's a lot of information out there, a lot of research being done about this generation that's just starting to come out now, because for the last 25 years we've been talking about the millennials. And not that we should forget about the millennials, but this is the new group coming up. And so we had a bunch of Gen Zers right here. I mean, what a great way to start this conversation. Because if you're 7 years old into your early 20s, you're a part of this generation. Also, had I known that that was my opening act, I would have probably come at a different date, because there's no way I can follow the entertainment of that group. So let's talk about this generation. So the bones of Generation Z. There are some things about this generation that really are defining who they are. And as I'm talking about this, please keep in mind that this is really early in the data gathering portion for this generation, because the eldest are in their early 20s. And not a lot was really studied about these folks because we were so overwhelmingly focused on the millennials. And so this information is just starting to get out. So born between 95 and 2012, they have an extremely strong work ethic, is what we're starting to see, and a lot of the authors are talking about this. They're responsible, resilient, and extremely ambitious. You've heard people talk about how this new generation, the next generation, and sometimes they merge millennials in there as well, as wanting to be entrepreneurs. These folks, but they aren't doing it with reckless abandon. These are really, really careful human beings. They like to plan, organize, and execute, and they don't do things willy-nilly, just sort of, yeah, I think I'll take a shot at that. They are real planners. And also, you'll notice the term on here, elite technical users. So I apologize to every other generation in the room, including the millennials. You ain't that good, all right? When it comes to being technical, it really is this group, because they're beyond native in using technology. They understand things in a way that even the millennials before them don't. It's just automatic. It's part of their bloodstream. So we consider them to be, and the authors consider them to be, elite technical users. They believe that they're responsible. They're individually responsible. They don't believe that others are responsible for them, their success, and they take accountability by and large. Now, for parents out there of this generation, you might be thinking, yes, I see a couple back there laughing. Yeah, right, they take responsibility. But by and large, maybe they only do it at school, But this is what the researchers and authors are finding, that they really do believe in individual responsibility, even if they don't know what that means. And they are definitely planners that get things in order. They're not taking chances. And you'll see this as they grow up and as they enter college, which they are doing now. The other thing that's interesting about this generation is that now, you know, if there are psychologists in the room, they'd say, well, that doesn't make any sense, this next bullet point, Rich, because this is using a completely different part of the brain. And they are whole-brained individuals. They're loyal and thoughtful, and they have a great concern for those around them. Right? And you might, if you've got a couple of these folks at home, you're probably thinking, well, they don't care too much about their brother or sister. But as a group, they really are interested in everybody having an opportunity, and they're concerned about the person sitting beside them as well. They're very concerned about the well-being of others. They are extremely career focused. There's no doubt about this. And there are reasons for this. I'm going to talk in a few minutes about how they're very, very attuned to finances. They're attuned to finances, they're attuned to employment opportunities. This is a group, in the latter part, who saw the Great Recession in 08, 09, right? And the research really shows that that's had an impact on what they think and how they're going about thinking about their future. They want to ensure that they're getting a job, and a job that's going to do them well. So when they're coming to college, they are starting in admissions asking, what's my career? I don't know about all of you, but when I went to college, I thought, yeah, I think I'll try this major. And if that doesn't work out, which it didn't, then I'll try this, this, and this. That's not their approach. They're thinking, what is my career? And I'm going to get a degree along that path to my career, because I need to know where I'm going and what I'm headed for. They're extremely loyal. Really, really loyal. And we're noticing that we've got hundreds of student employees on our campus. And this group is really interesting. We've got to teach them a lot of stuff, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute, about being an adult. But they're very loyal. They show up on time. They're committed to the job, and they want to do it really, really well. And there's a lot of research out there about how they really respect authority. And this job jumping that's been happening over the last 25, 30 years even, to climb the ladder, that might see some modification with this generation. They are apparently and seemingly, and the data bears out, the most diverse generation, but not just by gender identity or race, but also in nationality, and really importantly in terms of point of view, how they view the world. Although they've got all these similarities, they are very diverse in their way of interacting with the world and where they're headed. So I've talked about this a little bit, this theme coming out. They crave predictability. And the authors and researchers that have looked at this really think this has a lot to do with the early Gen Zers and their experience in seeing parents or friends lose houses, older siblings get out of college and not get a job, and people becoming unemployed during that time period of 08. It's really has had an impact on this generation. So they're looking for predictability and order, and they really feel responsible for their own success. They don't assume that anybody is going to be responsible for helping them get to where they need to be. Now they're going to find out that groups like this and others are there to do just that to some degree. But they don't feel like somebody's got to help me out or that I'm owed anything. They're very price conscious. They will look at a product and consider, and this includes education, what am I getting for the value here? And why would I go over there and pay more when I can get just about as good or equally as good the same thing here just because that's more popular? They're really changing that, and it's starting to impact college enrollments across the country. But it's also going to impact the products they buy, whether it's a car, whether it's where they choose to live. There's some early discussion about where they buy houses, and is the value of this house really worth paying all this property tax? Or is there somewhere else where I can find a better mix for me? So more to come on that as this group moves into that time period in their lives of buying homes. They're motivated really by opportunity and by relationships. And this is what we're learning is key for employers, is that, it would be absolutely incorrect to say that they're not interested in money. Well, of course, right? If you're human, you've got an eye on cash for sure. But they're really motivated by relationships with their employer, with their boss, with their company. And they want opportunity to grow within that company, within that organization. They're loyal folks. They want to stay. If they're given the opportunity, they're very likely to stay. The first time I presented this, the word up there wasn't little. It was no sense of entitlement. And even though that was the sense coming out from the research I've been looking at, if you're human, you've got some sense of entitlement. And so I corrected that, but they have a very little sense of entitlement, and they don't expect to get something just for showing up. It's a very different generation than the past that we've been dealing with. Very collaborative, as I talked about. They're really interested in the folks who are around them. And this isn't to suggest that they're not competitive. Of course they are. I mean, you probably see your kids with backyard sports with their siblings. They're as competitive as anybody else, but they add into that being very, very collaborative. And the millennials were considered Generation I, me. It wasn't just iPhone, iPad, me, right? I'm the center. And this generation is really being considered Generation We. They're concerned about everybody around them. That's going to have an impact on organizations and companies because this is the culture that they're bringing with them. And I apologize to the baby boomers out there. I really do. I feel bad for the boomers in the room. You've been knocked off your pedestal, right? So for a long time, and my parents who are boomers, I'm a Gen Xer, were really proud of the fact that they were different than their parents. And that difference happened really, really quickly. I'm sorry, folks. The mantle's been passed on to Gen Z. And what's really interesting about this is that so many people want to smush Gen Z and the millennials together. This is the quickest break between generations, the one that's just occurred between Gen Z and the millennials. And they are very, very different. There's not a lot about them that's alike. And you're going to see that as they start entering schools and organizations. They're a very different generation. So I apologize to the millennials. Y'all had it for a long time. Now the quickest belongs to Gen Z. Okay, a little bit about communication. They have short attention spans. You all know this, right? If these are your kids or your grandkids or you're around them, they do. And one of my favorite things about how they sort of understand multitasking is that they don't understand it. They think that it's, I can't pay attention, so I must be multitasking. They don't understand that multitasking is looking at all these different things and then therefore I cannot concentrate. However, they're developing in a way that is going to be really advantageous to them and the world that they're entering into. And that is because they really can travel between 4 or 5 different screens with different information and collect it all. Now, if you take that away, they're really bored, right? Short attention span. But if they've got this information coming at them really quickly, they can handle most of it. It's pretty impressive. Consider they get well over 100 text messages a day. They're in constant communication. This is a generation that has FOMO, which I recently learned it means fear of missing out. And they're in constant communication because they don't want to miss out on what's going on with their friends and their counterparts or contemporaries. And so they're in constant communication with each other. And I think that they've developed a new form of cave writing. I really do. They're using this phenomenal technology to basically, reinvigorate cave writing because they're having these full conversations, and authors are talking about this. They're having full conversations with pictures. Well, we've done that for 100,000 years, and now we've got these fancy phones, and they're writing on cave walls again, right? Fantastic. But I think it just shows an evolution of things and how they're thinking. The other thing is moms, dads, grandparents, if they have a voicemail set up, don't leave them a voicemail. Really don't. They absolutely hate voicemail. Hate's a strong word. They really dislike it. It is like a typed memo. They can't stand it. For most, though, they don't even set up their voicemails, right? If you try to get in touch with anybody and leave a message that's under 25, it's almost impossible. So from a business perspective, from an organizational perspective, and from an educational one, we've really got to think about how we're communicating out, because the phone really can no longer be the way we communicate. At the State College of Florida, we brought in software where we're texting from our computers to students, and we're having conversations with students by text. The phone is really sort of on its, wouldn't say it's on its way out, but it's being used very differently. And if they don't know your number, they're not picking up the phone. So we have a new strategy. We're texting them and telling them we're going to call from this number or whatever number it is, and we call and they pick up. So there's a little bit of tip for you. Text first, then call. They'll answer the phone. So having said all that, this is what I love about this generation, and I think this is what's really going to shift the balance. One of the things, other than the loyalty and commitment and being individually responsible, although they're really savvy on mobile devices and they like to communicate that way, and it's normal to have a relationship by distance, by video, these folks want to communicate face to face. That is their preferred form of communication. And it doesn't mean I'm going to do this by video or by Skype. It means sitting down with another human being and having that conversation. So we've changed the way we're doing business at the State College of Florida, and we're shifting all our back office operations and becoming more efficient there to put more people on the front line. Because for 25 years, students didn't want to talk to us. Just send me an email, text message, please leave me alone. That's completely changed. These folks want to engage. They want that human interaction. And if you're, whatever business you're in, think about for the next generation, if it's a customer, employee, partner, investor, and they're of this age group, they're going to want to be with you. They're going to want to sit with you. They're going to want to talk with you. They're going to want to learn about you. And they are not interested in frills and amenities. They want quality. And they want quality interaction between individuals and quality in services. Okay, so for all the wonderful things that I've said about this generation, there is one area where we can certainly help them out. And that's, I look at this between the age of 14 and 18. There's a piece that's missing that we're finding when these students are entering college, and authors and folks at other institutions are talking about this as well. So we really need to think about how do we help these folks bridge that gap between 14 and 18. They're entering college the way we entered high school, with that level of emotional maturity. So the research suggests in multiple studies that one, the things that we experience in high school they haven't done. And I'm going to name some things here, but I'm not condoning all of this activity, okay? I just want to put that out there. So these students are entering college having never smoked a cigarette, never had any alcohol, marijuana, by and large haven't had sexual relationship, haven't had a first job, haven't asked out somebody on a first date, haven't been asked out on a first date. Now, like I said, I'm not condoning all that list, but for the generations that have come before Gen Z, all that stuff got worked out in high school. And we learned a lot through that process. But these folks are coming to us, whether it's, right into the workforce at a high school or to college, they're coming to us with the level of experience that many of us had when we were 14, 15, 16. And that's something that we need to think about. And we've been thinking a lot about at State College and are developing programming to help those students. We have students, lots of students who are student employees who have never had a first job. They're 18, 19, haven't had, we are their first job. And so we're going back to the basics of, okay, when it says you've got to be here at 8 o'clock, that's not sort of a guideline. Like you want to be here at 8 o'clock. And once you explain it to them, they're on it, right? This is a generation that's like, okay, I got it, I'll be there. But without having that first job, wherever we've all had them, they don't understand that directly out of the gate. Now, this is research-based, right? So it's a generalization. Not every kid is like this. Also, how do you interact with a supervisor, with a peer? What does it mean to be professional on the job? Why do you have to behave a little bit different than you do when you're with your friends? So we're working this out. It's been an education for us as well, but I think that this is probably the one area we can help them out. A couple other quick things. They really fear finances, job security, and the lack of inclusion. That means, can I be included? Am I going to miss out on something? And as I mentioned, they really prefer service and quality over the frills and amenities. So in higher education, we've been building colleges and universities for the millennials and the millennials' parents for the last 25 years. Fancy residence halls, all the bells and whistles. This is a group that's looking for where's the best quality for the best price. However, along the adulting role, so they're I don't know if they're less receptive to it. That's the term that's being used, of free speech. But they don't maybe understand the idea and the concept of free speech. The researchers are suggesting that this has something to do with bullying prevention, which is if your idea isn't the same as mine and you're raising your voice, I'm being bullied. Now that's a generalization, but that's what the authors and researchers are talking about. So there's some work that we can do there as a community and as a society to say an opposing point of view, even if it's an elevated voice, does not necessarily mean bullying. And so there'll be a lot more work coming out about this on their own as well. I found this piece fascinating. And, it resonates here in Florida for obvious reasons. But when I was in high school or college, I'm sorry, not everybody can see the screen. I apologize. So what it reads is 50% believe that school shootings will have a bigger impact on their generation than social networking or the first African American president. School shootings. This is a very purposeful generation. This is something that's on their minds, and this is going to have a big impact on society. The other thing, so this is a time for parents to feel cool, all right? So for all of you that are parents in the room of this generation, you are their role models. The research shows that it's parents, grandparents, people that are close to them, coaches, teachers that are their role models. It's not like the past generations where it was celebrities or athletes. It's the people that they know and see perform well every day. Those are the folks that are their role models. All right, it's almost Christmas, so let's get through the rest of this pretty quickly. They want face-to-face interaction, absolutely no doubt. High quality services, they're not interested in all the frills and the extras. They're very career focused, very career focused. And that's something we're adjusting to as a college. We're talking to them about their career at or before when we're talking to them about what degree program they might want to go into. And they're very, very financially aware. That 2008 timeframe has not left their mind. Sorry folks, technology is not cool. I do think that this Apple Watch that I'm wearing is about the coolest thing in the universe right now. But if I were to ask somebody 7, 8, or 9, not cool. Really not cool. It's just a way to get things done. And it is mobile, right? If you're doing anything where you're going to be engaging with these people through technology, it has to be mobile. We've gone to a new mobile platform at SCF because that's the way students want to interact with us. In our orientation sessions, we don't have laptops, they're gone. It's all mobile phone and a tablet if somebody doesn't show up with a mobile phone. They've got a great work ethic, so keep that in mind. All they need is a little inspiration and a little bit of influence. They've got a great work ethic, and they're very, very socially and individually responsible. But they've got a lot less life experience than many of the other generations that came before them as they're entering these first stages of their life. Pride for them is internal. Concern for others is external. And they are risk averse. They're not going to take chances. They're planners. They're going to figure out a strategy. They're going to get organized, and then they're going to execute. They want predictability and order, and that's how they're going to orient themselves. So that is a very, very condensed version of the information about this generation. But I want to just leave you with, I'm excited about this generation a lot. I love their work ethic. I love their attitude. I like the fact that they own it and they're going to do it. I really appreciate that they're getting things back to basic blocking and tackling, which is I want a human being in front of me and I want to interact with that person, and that's what I find valuable. I also appreciate that they're really interested in all of us. So I think we've got a lot of great things coming up. I think this is a really exciting generation. They need a little help in the emotional and experiential development. And if you inspire them and influence them, they're going to be extremely loyal to you, your organization, and the mission and vision of you as a leader. So thank you very much. I appreciate being here. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Yes? Certainly, please do. Yep. So please feel free to take the PowerPoint and get it on your newsletter. That'd be fine. Yes, sir.
I work with kids, and I find that gaming is really huge for them, maybe not necessarily Gen X. How does that, how do you find that fits into this generation?
Sure.
As we move forward?
Yeah, so the question was that there seems to be a lot of young folks working gaming and engaging in games, and it's becoming huge. I mean, there are multimillionaires who are gamers, like a quarterback is making $1 million. So are people filling stadiums, watching them play video games. That is absolutely part of who these folks are. The research shows that they're participating a lot less in organized athletic sports. And there are consequences for that. That's a whole conversation on itself. But what they are doing is engaging across the planet, gaming, virtual gaming, simultaneously. And their ability to move from screen to screen quickly really, I think, attracts them to this video game environment where there's things coming and moving at all speeds at all times, and you've really got to think your way through this. So it's certainly a part of who they are. It's called e-gaming. We're thinking about this at the collegiate level. At some point, it may become a varsity sport for some colleges and universities. It's hard to believe with scholarships and everything, but that's where this is going. There are multimillionaires who are filling stadiums in the United States. So it's coming. So I think that they'll be a big part of this as well. We'll see how that goes.
So I had the opportunity to see the 3-hour version of your presentation.
Yeah.
One of the things I find really interesting is your discussion about the diversity of thought
Yeah.
and how that plays itself out and where these Gen Zers see themselves on the political spectrum. Can you talk about that?
Sure. Yeah, so the diversity of thought and how this plays out on the political spectrum. It's interesting. We're going to learn a lot more about this as they really start voting, but all indications are that these folks are libertarian. They do not want the government in their life. They've got a higher rate of going to church than the past 2 generations. So they're going to church or wanting to be engaged in a faith community significantly more than both Gen X and the boomers, and they're very libertarian. But they're also, interestingly, they've got serious issues with the gun laws. And we're going to see sort of this all mixed in because they appear to be slightly conservative libertarian, but then they've got some of the social things, the more liberal pieces that are pulling them back toward the center. So I think that's where they sit now, but there's a lot of diversity in thought on that.
Dr. Barnhouse, thank you very much for this presentation. It is a tradition of the Braden Kiwanis Club to give our speakers the Kiwanis Golden Rule to help you make future success.
Thank you very much.
Just understanding it. All
Yeah,
right?
appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you
We
very much.
really appreciate this.
Yep.
It's excellent.
Thank you very
Excellent.
much.
Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you again. We want to thank our theater camp kids. That was a great surprise for the flash mob. Let's give them another big round of applause. Our club elections will take place July 9th. And don't forget, there will be a board meeting tomorrow at Pier 22 starting at 12:15. All new members are encouraged to attend at least one board meeting. We are now adjourned. Thank you very much for coming today.